In this week's tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to make a vibrant and zingy arrangement for spring. If this is something that you would like to learn, then keep watching today's tutorial. Welcome back, and today I'm looking at one of the new containers that I've recently picked up. Now this channel is aimed at flower arrangers rather than florists, so most of the arrangements I do here are using supermarket flowers and foliages that you can either buy from a florist shop or you can forage for or pick from your garden. So that's why I use lots of secondhand containers, because I need a big selection of them to show you lots of different designs. And just after Christmas, I popped out and bought some new containers for 2025. And today I'm going to use this very vibrant green spring type container. And I'm going to use quite a vibrant colour combination, which matches really nicely with those vibrant greens. One of the difficulties of having a narrow neck container is that it's hard to create your mechanics and attach your floral foam. So I've come up with 3 different ideas that you might be able to use at home, but they all involve using some type of plastic container. Now, if you've got the junior saucer, which is the smallest of the plastic dishes, you will be able to glue one, so hot glue that on top, or you could probably use some Oasis Fix as a temporary measure. I wouldn't do that as a commercial florist because there's a risk that that might fall off at the top. But if you're just arranging for home or you're arranging for your local church, that's going to be fine. But you need to remember it's not going to be very stable when you're transporting it if you've got to take it from home to your local church. Now, lots of arrangers that are watching the tutorials are creating designs for their local church, and this really would be ideal. You could create quite a tall arrangement in it, you could go horizontal, you could create a very traditional triangle as well, although I would be a bit concerned about the stability. Now, other than the junior saucer, there is this little contraption which is for holding a large church candle. So you would find this if you're looking in the florist supplies or eBay. This would be a candle holder, and it happens to fit perfectly in that container. But the only concern with that is I can only get a small piece of floral foam in there. Ideally, I don't want the foam extended beyond the container because then the water would drip from it. So that was a good solution, but not perfect. So my second option was the bottom part of this compote holder, and I use this a lot. These come in packets, I think of 6, and I use these a huge amount here for commercial work and for videos for YouTube, and that gives you a much wider surface area on the top to hold your floral foam. But my final solution, and the method that I'm going to use, is the candle cup holder. Now, this is a product that's been around for years and years and years, and I think is probably not used a great deal, but it's designed to sit in a candle. So you have this sort of fat prong on the bottom, and that fits really nicely into a candle of any description. So this is obviously a 3-prong candelabra, but you can get that to sit in anything. So that would be a candle cup holder rather than a candle holder. And we use these a lot in commercial floristry. I don't know if I've ever used one on the YouTube channel. And what I've done, instead of using tape, just to give you an alternative method, is I've used string. I've wrapped string around, tied it in a knot. Not everybody can get hold of floral tape. The worrying thing sometimes about the floral tape is because it's quite wide, it takes up a big part of your floral foam. So 2 different methods, and you can of course use the thinner tape, but not everybody has access to all the different types of tools. So string works very well, and it doesn't block up too much room, and that fits perfectly on the top. And I'm going to use the addition of some floral fix just on the top there. If I was delivering this, I would probably maybe put tape over the top as well, but I don't feel the need to do that today. So this is the floral fix. Don't get any dust in it. Did you see that? That just shot across the room. Go back to where I was. Don't manipulate it too much with your finger, because the oils from your finger will contaminate the sticky surface, and try not to get any dirt or grit or sand or anything, dust and things in there, because it won't adhere. And then I'm going to stick that onto the container. So that's today's mechanics sorted. And what I also really need to consider with this container is it's slimline, it's narrow, there's not a great deal of visual weight at the bottom. So I really need to do something that's in keeping on the top. Something that's delicate, narrow maybe, to replicate the shape of the container, and nothing that's going to be too overpowering because it's not going to suit the container. So if you want to create something large, get a large container. If you're going with something more simple and slimline, pick an arrangement that matches your container. Now my colour combination today is quite vibrant. I've got cerise and lime green, and I'm hoping it will pick up on the colours of the container. Now I'm going to start with some cordyline leaves. These are often mistaken for New Zealand flax, but it grows differently from the plant and it's much thinner. And these have actually come from a neighbour's garden. This time of the year, when the sun is shining, some gardeners are out there quite keen to start tidying up outside in the garden. So I've salvaged these this morning from my neighbour as she was cutting them down. And I'm going to go quite tall. So we're about 1.5 times the height of the container. I need to try and remember to keep it in camera view as well. And I'm 2/3 of the way back in my floral foam, so that I've got plenty of room in the front for my fresh flowers and to give me that depth. So the arrangement has that 3-dimensional effect and it's not flat. If you start too far forward in the foam, you've got no room for your flowers at the front, and then you've got a big gap at the back that just needs to be filled in with greenery. And I'm starting with 2 very straight, narrow lines that really complement the colour and the style of my container. Now, one of the difficulties with this arrangement is covering this plastic dish, because you'll need to angle greenery down slightly so that we're hiding any of the mechanics underneath. But I'm going to start with my flowers on the top. Here in the studio I have a snake plant. So this has actually come from a plant rather than a cut flower. This is a snake plant. We used to call this a mother-in-law's tongue. And you're going to see these in another video, but what I've done differently today is I've inserted 2 wire prongs into the bottom. So this is a florist grade wire. And what that will do is it will enable me to give that extra support to the snake plant, and I won't have to push it right into the foam. So it's not going to take up too much space in my floral foam. And I've got 2, so a taller one at the back, shorter one at the front, and that will create the height and the start of my arrangement. Now the supermarket mix bunch I'm using this week was cerise and lime green with a little bit of what we call Tanacetum. So this is a country style flower, and it's come with a very limited amount of flowers. And I'm going to start with the spray carnation. The spray carnation is a small flower, it's the thinner flower. I'm going to remove that side shoot. And this is going to give me the height in the arrangement just in between those 2 pieces of greenery there at the top. And that's going to start my arrangement. Now it's probably going to be slightly asymmetrical because of the choice of flowers that I've got. But you always start with a smaller flower at the top, whether it's a smaller rose or a spray flower like this. We never put the bigger, more dominant flower at the top. We work our way down to the focal area, which is here, where your bigger flower and your more dominant colour or your more dominant flower is. Now in the mix bunch, I had Gerbera, this beautiful cerise Gerbera, and unfortunately one of them was snapped. So I know now that that has to come in this area here somewhere because it's not long enough to go anywhere else. So I'm estimating that my 2 Gerbera are going to come nearer the focal point. And then my roses are going to start creating what we call a focal line, and it's going to bring your eye and the colour from the top right the way down to the bottom section. And my rose is going to sit alongside my spray carnation, but it needs to be slightly lower down, slightly shorter. Now this rose has a slight kink in the stem, so it's naturally trying to force itself backwards in the foam. So I'm going to have to persevere a minute while we get that in the right position. And I think that's going to be okay. You can just see that because there's a slight curve, it's kicking forward. And if that happens with you, just take your time and be a bit patient as you try to insert it into the foam. So my next flower is going to be the one that's the least open. and the larger one is going to come at the focal point. So that one's going to pop in next. I'm going to remove some of the greenery so that the design is a little neater looking. And that one's going to pop in really nicely on the side. So what we've started is what we call a focal line. We pick up on the colour at the top and we step down towards the bottom. And then as we come down towards the bottom, we need to extend forward slightly to give the design a profile and to give it some depth. And what I'm aiming to do is to try and have the gap between these two and the gap between these two fairly similar. If you had more pink roses, you can continue that colour all the way down here to the bottom. But that's where I'm going to use these Gerberas. This poor little one was snapped in the container, so that's the only position I can put it in. And then we're going to extend that colour downwards towards the base. Now Gerberas can be a little temperamental and you can run a wire around the outside for extra support, but if you condition them properly, you shouldn't get that problem. And if you're not sure about how to care and condition your flowers, then I have a guide that you can buy on the website, and I'll link it in the notes at the end, so you can pop over there and have a look. Let's just move that down slightly. Now this style of arranging is grouping. So I've grouped the flower content together. You could, if you wanted to, put one of the Gerberas here and extend a rose downwards, but I like that grouped and that clustered effect. Next, I'm going to go in with some green chrysanthemums. These are just amazing, and look at the colour link between the container. And always in a video, I tell you to try and match the colour of the container with the arrangement on the top, because it makes it look more cohesive and it all gels together. And that is just a perfect example of what you're aiming to achieve. Now, I don't think I want to block the really textural quality of the snake plant there at the back. So I'm going to bring my green chrysanthemums down that side, but I'm going to have to thin it out because I've only got 2 stems and I need to get the colour all the way down to the bottom. So what I'm going to do is take the top section off. So what I've done is I've removed that bit. So this can give me the height and this can be used lower down. And that's really one of the tricks of floral design, is trying to get your flowers to go a bit further. Extend your money out. Try and get your flowers to go that little bit further when you're creating designs, and be a bit resourceful and economic with your flower choice. So the colour is already there at the top. This one has to be used at the length it is. I can't make that any longer. And then what I'm going to do is bring some of the green over to that side there, so that we're balancing off that lovely green colour. And I'm going to do the same. I'm going to cut it into 2. So instead of having 2 pieces of green chrysanthemum, I now have 4. And you can do that with spray carnations, spray roses, spray chrysanthemums, and it means your flowers are going to go a lot further. And then remove the greenery if necessary, because sometimes it can be a bit scruffy. And that one is going to sit nicely in the front. And I have left a gap underneath so that I can get some greenery in. And with a very simple supermarket mix bench, I've got quite an impressive design. And then what I'm going to do with that smaller bit that's left, I'm going to break it down into individual pieces. I'm going to get 4 or 5 different placements, and I can add these in around that focal point so that green colour is more evenly spread out. If you place material close to the foam, that's called recession, and it creates depth. Try and avoid having all your flowers at the same height and the same length, because it doesn't give your design that contour and that 3-dimensional form that we're looking for. And that's all my flowers used up. We've got a focal line, and then we've got an even distribution of the green. Now I can fill in with my greenery. Sometimes I do a greenery outline first, sometimes I put the flowers in. It depends a little bit on the choice of greenery that I've got. And on the left side, as you look at it, I've got some Fatsia, and I've got 2 different sizes. One is much smaller than the other. What you're looking to do here is have something that's fairly dominant, nice and large and round, to balance off where I've extended the length on this side here. And that is looking lovely so far. Now I'm quite excited this morning to have found a plant that I absolutely love, and this was growing on the side of the road. This is called Garrya elliptica, or the silk tassel bush. That is a bit of a mouthful. Look at those, aren't they just fantastic? I would say they're probably more often than not used in traditional floral designs, but I'm going to use it to drape down over the front of my container. The foliage can look a bit scruffy, it's a bit damaged by the weather, but look at those, aren't they just amazing? And that is going to come underneath towards the front there, just to drape down nicely over the front of my container. I'm thinking I slightly need to move it over to that side there. I think that's a better position, but isn't that just fantastic? I think I'm going to put 2 in, but 2 might be too many, so let's just take a look. Now with a modern sort of style of arrangement like this, you don't need to have a huge amount of flowers. Really think about the effect that each material gives you and whether or not you need to keep on adding and adding and adding. What a lot of people do when they do something that's more simplified and more modern in its styling is they really overfill. They keep adding and they keep adding. That gives me an impressive bit of downward movement at the front. I don't need to add in any more. That's going to help draw the eye all the way from the top all the way down to the bottom. So I'm loving that so far. Now my next positioning is going to be this very delicate little Tanacetum. This is part of the Feverfew family. And what I'm going to do here is just sit a small amount of it in this area at the top here. So if we drew a very basic outline of this arrangement, it really is just a triangle. It's a tall, slimline, elegant triangle with a minimal selection of flowers. And really, once you've learned the basic shapes, you just need to play around with them using a different selection of flowers to create a different feel. I'm also going to repeat that grouping of this really pretty. I think this is maybe one of my favourite flowers. It cheers me up, makes me think of the summer months when the weather's lovely and warm and brides are getting married and everybody's happy, and it's just a delightful flower to arrange with. And even though it looks quite delicate, it is quite robust. And at this stage, all I really need to do is to fill in with a simple type of greenery, nothing too fussy, nothing too heavy. I don't want to spoil that look that I've created by now adding in loads of different fussy foliages. So this one is camellia, it's a garden camellia, and I'm going to use this all the way around just to finish the design off. Don't forget, if you're new here, hello. Bit late to tell you, but my name is Sharon. Welcome to my YouTube channel. You'll find a whole range of videos on here, both using foam and using traditional chicken wire. I'm a commercial florist. I absolutely love teaching people how to create floral designs, and you'll find loads of lessons on the website where I teach you how to do basic floral design and different types of floristry. A few pieces just tucked underneath alongside that Garrya elliptica, and I think I'm completely done. Now, if you haven't stayed to the end of the video, because I know a lot of you sneak off before I get to the end, then stay till the end because you'll see close-ups of the finished design and all the individual flowers. You'll also find a discount code there that will give you a discount off all of the online courses. So thank you as ever for watching. I look forward to seeing you for the next tutorial. Ask questions in the box below, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.